thank you so much for joining us. So you have literally just a second signed an agreement as a representative of the Nigerian state oil company with the UN Global Compact. Tell me more about this agreement and what led to it.
What this means is that NNPC, being the largest oil company in Africa, with footprints across the globe, is aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, focused on creating clean energy, of course, also a just transition of energy sources, and of course, building more and more resources such that our impact of our business on the climate is minimized, while we continue to provide energy for today and for tomorrow for the whole of the world, and particularly for our country. What this means, the NNPC is committed to moving towards much cleaner energy, meeting all the requirements of the Global Compact, which includes, governance certainty, governance transparency, including fight against corruption across all our value chain, and of course, ultimately to serve the Nigerian people by providing them energy, which is what they require.
Now, this is fantastic, in terms of the promise of providing energy to the people, but also the sustainable energy, the clean energy. And tell me a little bit more about how exactly you're going to do this in terms of the sustainable part, which is obviously one of the big things that's being discussed here at the UN General Assembly this year.
Clearly, the sustainable part is to see when can we get to net zero. Net zero, our country is committed to net zero by 2060. That means you must take certain practical steps, including using transition fuel. In our country, it's a major gas country, so we use gas as a transition fuel going forward so that we reduce our footprints. And of course, more importantly, today, a majority of people don't have access to clean energy, even for cooking. Therefore, you have to do that careful substitution with gas as a source of energy as you progress, and then you find alternative and much cleaner use of the liquids that we produce in our country. So it's very practical. Of course, today in our country now there's zero flare. You can't start any project with a flare, and that means the first step of emission has been taken. And you can't do this except you are organized, you have a sustainable plan, you have a way of doing things, you have access to financing, more importantly, but more than anything, you must have a just process that leads to which is our country is committed to.
Now, one of the themes of this Gabi conference here, the Global Africa Business Initiative, is energy. Tell people about the opportunity of energy, that Africa really offers to the rest of the world.
I think you can't have prosperity anywhere without energy, and that's very, very clear. Today, the whole of the sub-Saharan African countries actually having less than 50% of energy sufficiency or energy availability. Cheap energy availability. And of course, you have to address that before you really talk about prosperity. And therefore, there's a clear linkage between poverty, energy availability, and also peace. And we're trying to see how our business can close that gap by providing the energy so that prosperity can be created. And then, of course, development will now be sustainable in the long term, or even in the short term. And that way, you can see the connection between the fossil fuel industry and the future. And of course, its impact on climate is not disputable, but it's something that you have to move in a very just and transparent manner.
And what about making it affordable to the people?
Affordable means you have to increase quantity, there's a clear linkage between demand and supply, because people can access it. You don't want to do subsidy, yes, that's clear, but you have to make it abundant so that people can have access to it. And once abundance comes, volume increases, quantities are more, of course, naturally you can see lower prices.
Well, this is fantastic. This is really like a groundbreaking agreement that you've just signed. So we wish you all the success with that. But I want to ask you, so this conference, the first of its kind, the first Gabi conference was held last year. Have you seen things change in the year until now in terms of Africa on a global stage, business opportunities, the world's interest in Africa?
Absolutely. There are new awareness that people must take very practical and swift steps towards taking decisions that will help reduce carbon footprints, ultimately reducing the impact on climate. That's very clear. Every company is talking about this. Companies are taking practical steps to do this, and of course it takes a while to build this, but some companies have more capacity than the others. We have huge capacity. We have taken certain practical steps to see how we can progress our gas projects so that they can quickly substitute biomass as a source of energy. And I think every company is doing that. But I know that in sub-Saharan Africa, this is very, very clear. Conversations on the table on national oil companies across Africa have indicated very clearly that everyone is taking certain practical steps. But the clarity also is that you can't do this when people are short of energy. And that means that's the first gap we're trying to fill, and then going further, we can now make it much more cleaner.
So what do you want to see from the next Gabi conference this time next year?
I think the world creating a segregated platform for addressing challenges of energy supply in sub-Saharan Africa by creating windows for financing for African countries. I would like to see this in the next conference to say, look, we're helping you, don't stop. It can be sustainable, but we'll support you and we'll help you. No, we're not asking for pity. My president has said, no, not absolutely not. Create the businesses, create the finances that can close that gap.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to speaking to you next year.
Thank you. So that we'll say something different next year.